I'm Seher Abbas, as Hira mentioned, and I'm co-chair for Women in Energy, and I'm currently working as Associate Upstream Officer at the International Finance Corporation. I'll be your moderator for our last panel in this 2-day STEM Forward job fair, and we'll be talking about integrating energy in urban planning. Recent trends indicate that more than 1 million people will be added in our cities every week till 2050, which means that urbanization would reach over 80% of the global population. Cities consume 75% of the world's resources while occupying only 2% of the Earth's surface, which means that they are a dominant cause for carbon release in our environment. Therefore, urban energy planning and urbanization management will be pivotal for creating the right framework conditions for a sustainable energy future. This is a very important topic, and as energy is the backbone of all development, such as mobility of humans and goods, civil infrastructure and buildings, transformation, therefore needs to begin with planning our large cities better. And this intersection will also open up and has already opened up space for innovation and private sector to play a bigger role, as COVID-19 has showed that government's fiscal space is drying up. This panel will talk about all the opportunities that will come up and the skill sets that our young youth should acquire to tap this opportunity. So before I start the panel discussion, I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Khurram Mukhtar from K Electric, which is the largest, which is operating in the largest and most complex city in Pakistan, Karachi. And K Electric is also the only vertically integrated and private utility and a very close partner for Women in Energy and a sponsor for our STEM Forward job fair. So Khurram, I'll give a quick introduction. And can Khurram be on stage, Hira? Hira, I don't see Khurram anywhere.
Apologies for that. I think I got disconnected, but I am.
Sorry,
Were you
no problem.
Speakers? No problem.
Yeah, I was wondering if Khurram is here. Can you bring him on stage and I'll give a quick introduction and then we can have his keynote address. Hi, Khurram. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Seher. How are you? Thank you so very much for inviting me.
Sorry, we can't. There's a really strong background noise.
Sorry, Khurram, I think you need to plug in your earphones, maybe to the laptop. They might be loose. There's a little bit of an echo.
Khurram, you're on mute now. Yeah, you're on mute.
Is it?
No, actually, there's still some background noise. Can you speak now?
Yeah. Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but there's still a little bit of background noise.
Okay, so let me just check my settings.
Is it working without the headphones? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, this is better.
Okay, wonderful, perfect. Please continue.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just quickly give a introduction and then we'll hand it over to you. So Khurram Mukhtar is the head of energy conservation and change management KE. Khurram has 17 years of versatile and diversified professional experience, including 8 years at K Electric. Having spent 7 years at the front end of the distribution business, Khurram is now heading the energy conservation and net metering department. Prior to KE, Khurram spent an exciting 4.5 years managing commercial operations for the largest government organization, Pakistan Railways, as well as leading the sales function of an internationally renowned brand in Dubai for over 2 years, meeting business goals and achieving revenue targets consistently while also effectively handling teams. So, without further ado, I'd ask Khurram to start with his keynote address. Khurram, over to you.
Uh, Thank you. Thanks a lot, Seher, for leaving the crazy person out of the description. I truly appreciate that. And I'm also truly grateful to STEM and everyone else who's behind organizing this event for providing me and, for that matter, Kei, the opportunity to be here and share a few words with this very important set of people. It's a very important topic and a very, very pertinent one. And hopefully, I'll try and do justice within the given amount of time. I won't call it time, I will call it minutes. And I'll just start with a single line extract from an interactive session held between a set of university students and Elon Musk. I presume a pretty known guy to all of us. And for me, an exceptionally brilliant gift to this planet. He has founded SpaceX, PayPal, Tesla, SolarCity, and many others. So I would quote, he said, "What I think is going to most affect the future of humanity and the biggest threat to our problem is sustainable energy, the production and consumption of energy in a sustainable manner. And if we are not going to solve it in this century, we are in deep trouble." This actually became the truth, and the world began taking this phenomena seriously. And now we have real life examples of energy becoming sustainable in cities and countries across the globe. In recent years, sustainability has become a key objective of all mega plans. It involves architecture and constructions, event operations and management, as well as a host of new initiatives that stimulates innovation and greater and generates, I believe, social impacts also. I personally, having worked in two different and very unique professional environments, I can very easily say that though governments have started embedding sustainability into their long-term plans, private sectors is still perhaps the leading is the one leading the way forward. And for me, being part of such an environment has really helped in bringing about the right change with respect to becoming the first utility company to embark upon an exciting journey leading towards a more greener and more sustainable future for our city largely, and for the country also, and for the citizens of the city. We recognize that the way we produce, consume, and share energy is fundamentally changing, and we are working day and night towards making the city a smart one, hopefully in the very near future, inshallah. We all know it as a fact that cities consume more than 75% of the natural resources available globally. United Nations Environment Program, we also know that it estimates that the material consumption related to cities will augment to approximately 90 billion tons by 2050 as compared to last probably it was done in 2010, I believe, where it was 40 billion tons. And some of these resources are primarily energy, raw materials, fossil fuels, and food, etc. And when we talk about resource efficiency, then this model becomes directly and indirectly related to energy and energy efficiency as well. While the prime, I see it like the primary responsibility still may fall on government and authorities to plan for the future development of this and other cities in this country. This is something still to be owned by the private sector professionals, and especially most importantly the future generation currently into their academic careers across the city and country. I've since having a very short time, I can just touch upon few businesses and few areas where private entities can invest that can support the concept of smart and sustainable and greener cities in future. Starting would be renewable sources of electricity generation, some smart data collection services such as SCADA commissioning, green building commissioning, and consultancy services. Green financing is something that is now becoming a big thing, and there is a lot of support from the government also. And we have an SRO, probably a government intervention where on a very low markup rate, people and entities and individuals can go for solar financing and green financing for their renewables, Energy management services or consultancy providers. This is one area we need to look at and we need to start investing in as private entities, private business owners. For us, though the journey is a long one and it's probably going to take years and years and decades to probably just enter into that environment. However, KE is KE being the only private entity among all discos in Pakistan has crossed several milestones in making Karachi, especially, uh, won't say a smart one, but the direction is there, and the milestones I would like to mention few of those here. The smart grid system. Uh, we have a network of more than 50,000 smart meters in the city, which enables KE to have an efficient way to monitor energy being consumed within its network. This smart grid system supports the concept of IoT, that is Internet of Things, which is integral to smart city development. Smart grids also helps avoid billing issues, billing anomalies, and also gives good insight in consumption and the pilferage patterns of various areas and consumer sets, which directly enables KE to provide high quality, high end customer services to its consumer right at their doorstep. We are now moving into trials with two-way AMI infrastructure, which is advanced metering infrastructure, so that we can have real-time visibility over technical and commercial losses and also to monitor and improve network health parameters. This technology is also helping us in responding more quickly to faults and power outages within the city. And additional data collection require techniques like GIS mapping of the entire electrical infrastructure, which we are already probably 70% through, and the rest of it is planned in this current fiscal year and part of the next fiscal year. And the entire electrical infrastructure will be there on GIS, enabling and giving us, empowering us in advanced level preventive and system growth planning, which has never been done before, and perhaps KE would be the most utility in doing so. And that also enabling us to providing a good ground level view of how consumers consume power within the city in different areas and different localities. We are also not heading, but probably in the top tier of how net metering has advanced into the country. This started in 2016 and 17. It was a federal initiative and a directive, but how KE has been very supportive. And in the last 2 years only, we have added almost 25 megawatts of solar into our grid. And the cases are like somewhere around 1,500 or 1,600 consumers. This includes both residential, commercial, and industrial consumers. Besides this, perhaps one of the bigger initiatives are the Go Green ones, where KE is involved and leading. Starting with, we have ensured that almost all of our generating plants and other premises are ISO 50001 certified. We have endorsed and we have been very vocal on the use of energy efficient lighting, and we have ensured that this is implemented across all KE sites. Just not keeping it within the company, we have fast Sahulat program. It is a well-known program wherein we are collaborating with major manufacturing companies who are involved in manufacturing efficient products such as Phoenix, Osaka, Kenwood, and many more, for marketing and distribution of low-cost, energy-efficient products into within the underprivileged, I would say, areas of the city. Our head office, it has been completely shifted towards to solar. There is a 300 kilowatt working PV system, solar system. We are also increasing our operational dependency on renewables by installing almost 300 kilowatt solar in the next few months. This is within K Electric and within our main hard core operational premises. Okay, and just to add to this, there was a big achievement. We understand that this the green and sustainable future, it's not just only our responsibility, but it's also lies upon those who are now being educated and they are in their academic careers. We reached out to one of the very renowned and very prestigious school, where we had a 3 month long specially designed module on how the architecture students are are going to embed the sustainable building design in their future models, and this was appreciated, and this is now a continuous program, and we are now with the same school and with other institutions, educational institutions, we are reaching out and we are giving the students and the faculty there the knowledge and the understanding of how important it is for our city and our cities here. Okay. Lastly, as far as our internal initiatives are concerned, this is a very reality. This is a reality of life that even if you can show something that works on the paper, and the calculations are also very clear, but until you have the physical product or the object, it doesn't really sink in for the people. So in this world, we need to have some working prototypes. If you have an actual working demonstration or article, even if it is in its primitive form, that's much more effective to convince people and show what's there, what we are talking about. With this in mind, we are very proudly recognizing the fact, and we are very happy to say that the first fully green, sustainable commercial building in the heart of this city is going to be inaugurated next month, putting on displays key commitment towards this change and paving the way for us and the utility fraternity at large in the country to rise above and present themselves as leaders for such initiatives. Uh, I would also, I won't say lastly, but I would also like to touch upon few of the critical skills needed by the upcoming professionals, especially those who have interest to add value to the cause of integrating efficient energy in urban planning. First of many would be a good and thorough knowledge of energy generation, both conventional and alternate renewables, knowledge of how energy works and what losses are during transmission and distribution, what are the essential and the latest automation protocols and techniques. These are all which our students, our people should know and should have a decent grip on before entering into the industry. World best practices in developing energy efficient technologies and common things such as like blowers, compressors, boilers, and etc. And this sort of equipment. Our designs, a very in-depth knowledge of how green buildings work, what is the optimal designs for different equipment. This is a must for everyone who's thinking of entering into the industry for 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 with a view of with a commitment of adding value to this chain. A slight knowledge and uh, I would say an understanding of how the green financing model or the structure works would definitely help professionals from this side to facilitate consumers and entities entering into this kind of an environment. And lastly, environmental engineering and urban sociology. It is very important. There are tons of other things other than energy, which is like waste management, wastewater management, water conservation, conservation of fauna, flora, air quality, economic vitality, and diversity. Things like this will definitely help the environment. Plus, jobs related to environment are now appearing rapidly to align corporations' vision with sustainability as an objective. So it is there and going to stay, and it is absolutely uh, will provide the students and the people entering an edge to land on a better area, better environment, and so that they can add value to whatever the industry is trying to do. KE also as well has an environmental program system clubbed with a comprehensive compliance mechanism. uh, I would say that I would end this with a real life example. uh, if we have all seen the cutting edge innovations in automotive industry, I would refer to the electric vehicle industry. The biggest challenge here was not to manufacture electric vehicles. Ton of manufacturers were already doing so, but the challenge was to bring about the perceptual change, which was that the world was seeing these electric vehicles as slow, as ugly, as low ranged, and we saw that few of the people who were there in this industry took up this as a challenge, and this same world managed to turn this perception on its head. And now we all are very openly accepting this fact that the electric vehicles are now considered as real fast, very attractive, and highly long range. So things are there and principles are there only to be changed if there is a will and if there is the right understanding of what needs to be changed and when it is to be changed. Students, I believe, are the magicians of this century, with nothing holding them back, as imagination can be the only limiting factor. I would urge each and every one of them to go out there, create some magic. Lastly, at the end, I would thank again everyone, Seher and the entire organizational team of this STEM fair. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Khurram. Thanks a lot for your informative keynote and for telling us all about what K Electric is doing.
Thank you so much.
And thanks a lot for your time. So I will move on to our panel discussion now and quickly introduce our equally distinguished group of people who will be joining us for this discussion today. So we have with us Stefan Gsanger from the World Wind Energy Association. Stefan is the Secretary General of the World Wind Energy Association and was instrumental in the foundation of WWEA in 2001 and has been managing the association since then. Under his direction, WWEA has become the voice of the wind sector worldwide, with 600 members representing indirectly 50,000 members in more than 100 countries. He's one of the initiators of the International Renewable Energy Alliance and has consulted for governments as well as international organizations. He's a member of the International Steering Committee of REN21, a co-initiator and executive committee member of the Global Go 100 Renewables Campaign, and a member of the Innovation Network of the Japan Renewable Energy Foundation. So welcome, Stefan. Next with us is Victoria Delmon. Ms. Victoria is the Asia Pacific Regional Lead for Upstream and Principal Investment Officer in the Infrastructure and Natural Resources Department at the IFC. Victoria brings over 25 years of experience in infrastructure finance, M&A, and structuring of infrastructure projects, with extensive private sector experience in water and wastewater, transport, and solid waste sectors that span all throughout the world, including Africa, ECA, MENA, and South and East Asia Pacific. She worked at Freshfields, Bruckhaus, Deringer Law in London, Paris, and Frankfurt for 7 years, and as in-house international counsel at the utility company Veolia Environment for 7 years, and then the World Bank for over 14 years. Victoria holds an MA in law from Oxford University and is a solicitor qualified to practice in England and Wales. Really happy to have you online, Victoria, but I don't see you. Hira? All right, so our next speaker is Sofia Shakil. Sofia Shakil serves as the Asia Foundation's country representative in Pakistan with additional regional program responsibilities. An experienced policy economist, Sofia brings nearly 25 years of experience in the development sector with a focus on human development, public sector policy, and governance reform. She has held several positions with the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and international NGOs, and brings to this role her extensive knowledge of and passion for Asia's economic and social development. Last but not the least, we have with us Naveen Sohail Khan. Naveen Sohail Khan is a human resource professional with more than 7 years of experience in multiple HR roles, with specific focus on HR topics, compensation and benefits, training and development, employee well-being and engagement. And she's currently the HR service specialist at Hitachi ABB Power Grids, Pakistan. Naveen has a master's degree in strategic human resource management from the University in Wollongong, UAE, and a bachelor's degree in economics and social sciences from the Lahore University of Management Sciences. Happy to have you both, Sofia and Naveen. And thank you. While Victoria joins us, maybe we can start the discussion with you, Stefan. And I'd like to pose the first question to you. which is, how do you see what opportunities and areas do you see the intersection of energy and urban planning has opened up globally? And what skill sets might be required to tap these opportunities?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's a great pleasure being with you. I mean, this is a so important topic. And I got this question you sent me in advance, and it's just very difficult to give you a short answer because the answer is so broad. Let me say that although my main focus is on wind energy, I've been working on renewable energy in general for more than 20 years now. My first conference was in 1998 about European conference on solar energy in urban planning and architecture. And I think that already highlighted more than 20 years ago all the opportunities that we will see more than 20 years ago. And it's very amazing to see that a large part of what was discussed at that time has not yet been implemented. So of the options that we have. Fundamentally, let me say that what we're seeing now is a huge transformation of our global energy supply, which has big impact on cities. So we are about to transform the energy supply from centralized fossil, little bit nuclear resources to renewable energy sources, which are available everywhere, which totally changes also the structure of cities. Of course, cities so far are mainly importing. They also become now powerhouses. So they will probably generate a lot of the energy that they need locally. Not all of it, but they will do that a lot, which they will do in very different manners and ways. So some of it will also come, of course, from around, but you see this trend. And taking my hometown, where I'm now in Bonn, where the UN Climate Secretariat is based, there was a calculation made recently, and that's just a very simple example, that 50% of the power could come from the rooftops of the houses. Just imagine, at the moment, I think it's like 2% of the roofs are only using solar PV. So just covering all the roofs, and that means also all the storage systems, etc., that will lead to such a huge economic, activity. And that is just now we talk about power and one part of the power. We will need a completely different set of mindset of how we do urban planning. So I don't think we will need maybe more architects, but we need different architects. We need better architects who think again about the environment and how to use, for example, the solar energy that comes from the sky. And that already requires that the people who are now studying architecture, that they learn that at the university. It's a very big range. We talk about urban planning, how you plan houses. Again, the people that have been doing this for the last couple of decades, they've been thinking, especially in the Western, of course, world, but also you see this in many, like I think Karachi as well. You focus a lot on big roads for cars. I think cars will play a minor role. Of course, I agree that electric mobility will be important, but it will be this individual mobility will play a smaller role in the future. So also here in the area of how we organize our transportation, we will need less roads. We will need more roads for bicycles, pedestrians, for public transportation. So it is a very, very, very broad variety of jobs. The solar installers you will need, these are non-academic jobs, of course. We need better architects. We need better people who can do the town planning that is necessary. Of course, when we talk about wind energy, for example, the large wind turbines will probably be outside the cities, but there might also be some small wind turbines. And again, for that, you will need a range of engineers who can design those turbines, who know, and that's very important. You don't just put it on a rooftop. Who can do like the wind measurement and then put them at the right place, and then those people who do it. So it's impossible to say these and these and these jobs. It's very broad. Just keep in mind the new paradigm is harvesting local energy primarily, the solar energy primarily. Then it depends, of course, on the cities. Again, here where I'm living, geothermal energy plays a big role. I think that will also be important for heating. Of course, here, maybe in the part of the world where you are, maybe cooling is more relevant. But again, here, you can use that kind of also geothermal for cooling instead of heating. It's really we have to change very basically, and it's important, and I'm very happy that you, as the more young generation, you think about that, and start talking also to your people around you. So it's actually at the end up to you also to identify what exactly are the needs, and to define what are the requirements, and also say, this is what we need to do, and this is where we develop our skills, because it's also for our future. I think that's also important. It's mainly for your future. So that, let me say this as an introduction, not as a kind of direct one-to-one answer, but just to describe a bit more the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan, for highlighting that, and also highlighting that it's very broad and the skills required would obviously evolve, and it's not just one active stakeholder play, there's several stakeholders. And my next question on that would be to you, Victoria. What role do you see IFC playing in this area, in this new intersection of energy and urban planning, and what kind of opportunities have organizations like IFC tapped into already? Yeah, you're on mute.
There we are. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. So thanks very much for inviting me to this panel. IFC, the International Finance Corporation, is part of the World Bank Group and is focused on supporting and opening up markets in developing countries where we work. In particular, working with private sector clients and also through our World Bank colleagues with governments to really create markets and open up opportunities. And I see significant opportunities in the urban sector, and this question as to really how we can leapfrog technologies in a lot of the countries that we're working in. And there are a number of areas where we are trying to look at what's going on elsewhere in the world so we can leverage our global presence to develop, to draw from experience both in developed and developing countries to come up with business models in new areas. So, and one of the areas that we're looking at is electric vehicles, and thinking through how cities will actually be able to cope with the increased amount of need for energy in those specific places, whether it's charging stations, how the utilities are going to be able to provide that, as well as looking at the whole supply chain and at demand, and what is it going to be, what's it going to take to kickstart electric vehicle take up in a lot of the countries that we're working in. Another example is looking, and again, very crucial for cities, how we make sure that we get power to the end users in the last mile. How do we ensure that it is more sustainable and that it is more consistent? So working with the private sector in a number of places, for example, in Pakistan, we're looking at distributed generation and how we can work with industrial and commercial customers to really support them and help them be able to have the reliable power that they need. And there are many other areas that we're looking at. We're looking at cooling and what business models have worked elsewhere in the world, and what can we do to really help jumpstart some of the investments into those, whether that comes through municipal finance or it comes through the private sector. So there are a number of areas that we're really trying to develop best practice, and we're doing quite a lot of that in Pakistan as well as elsewhere in South Asia to really not just use experience from elsewhere, but also to have these markets as the market leaders to the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria, for highlighting. Maybe if you could quickly also briefly touch on the skill set maybe that IFC as an organization looks at when hiring people in energy and intersection of IFC platforms such as the cities platform that the organization is working on.
Thank you. So I think very similar to the lead speaker. So we are. It's very important that we have people with different backgrounds, from urban planning right through to energy, particularly experience in renewable energies and different technologies there, but also in terms of understanding finance and different financing mechanisms. IFC works a lot in the medium and small and medium enterprise area as well. So really being able to understand how you can work with entrepreneurs and having that background. And even at the small level, so particularly in innovation, we have colleagues who work in venture capital and really trying to create seed opportunities to leverage technologies. So the whole gambit of financing expertise as well. And we also have colleagues who are working on environment and safeguards issues, which are very important. Being able to bring up the standards on environmental issues is something that's fundamental to the World Bank Group. And so people with backgrounds in social science and in environment. So really a whole range of expertise is really relevant. And we are pushing a lot into also ensuring that we try and achieve gender parity in a lot of the projects that we're working on. We've seen over and over again the really impressive stats that you get from entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs who are leading companies. And so we're really trying to encourage that in the region. And we're working also to see if we can achieve parity in terms of board, or at least increase board representation with women, right through to looking at mechanisms for bringing more and more women into the sorts of sectors so through education, so to see more female engineers, and then also really trying to ensure that there is inclusion of women in all consultations that are had, particularly in relation to infrastructure projects. And so there's a whole range of needs to be able to achieve all of that in terms of the skill sets that we're looking for.
Great, thank you. And you've highlighted some very important areas that we look at for engaging young youth, like fields, but also how maybe we can increase women participation. So bringing the conversation from global to local, my next question is to Sofia. And given Asia's Foundation work and your experience, like how do you see Pakistan faring in this field? That is improving urban processes to create smarter, cleaner, greener cities.
Well, let me first start by saying, thank you to the keynote speaker and to the other panelists for bringing up some, I think, very pertinent points. I want to first say that, when we talk about what's happening in Pakistan, let's look at like regionally and globally, what are some aspirations that we can, work towards? And, when we talk about livable and inclusive cities, what do we really mean by that? And what does that, and how is that going to pan out for Pakistan? When we talk about livable cities or inclusive cities, we're talking about putting people at the forefront and getting people, cities to provide essential services to people, but getting their inputs into it. Across Asia, and this is something that Pakistan is going to have to also, be confronted with, which is already happening, is that there's all the way from demographic shifts, which are changing the kind of makeup of the cities, and ergo the services that need to be provided. But then also, we're seeing a lot of urban-rural integration taking place with diversifying value chains. How are cities going to cater to that? And so what are the kinds of skills, what are the kind of frameworks one needs to keep in mind, is that to support, further inclusive cities development and making cities more green, whether you're talking about introducing, we've heard all about the technologies in terms of, sustainable transport and other services, but it's also about, creating green spaces, creating spaces for leisure, which are really critical as demographics also change. And we've seen that a lot in China, where with aging populations, you not only need more leisure space, but you also need to ensure that from all the way from, from home to the end. It's a completely inclusive infrastructure. Now, what kind of skills do you need for that? You need to bring together skills not only on the technical side, but also on the planning, also in terms of being able to mobilize, raise awareness amongst the users and have them participate in the planning. And I think Victoria was also saying this, that, a lot of the social science skills as well as, on the environment. Of course, that's in addition to the technical. Now, one more point that I did want to make that I think for Pakistan is really relevant. If you just take a look at what happened in Karachi during the recent floods, here you're talking about municipal services that came to a standstill, were completely, whether it's floods and elsewhere across Asia in particular, we've seen the pandemic has completely upended a lot of what we know about basic essential services and what is ultimately very important. What we saw in Karachi happen in the floods was that the one opportunity that I saw, of course, we saw a breakdown of a range of, basically a governance problem. But what we also saw was that we need to get more private sector solutions and innovations that are integrated into municipal and public services. And that's where I think there's a huge skill set. I know IFC plays a strong role in supporting private investors, but we also need to build capacity of the public sector. We need to create that space. We need to put the people back in the framework of partnerships between public and private sector, and ensure that the needs of all urban dwellers, all the types of citizens are really catered for. So I'm going to stop there because I've given a little bit of an overview about the kind of conditions, environments, and partnerships that you need in order to create more livable and ultimately sustainable cities. But that really putting people and partnerships at the center is going to help achieve that.
Thank you, Sofia. And like you highlighted, I think Karachi, of all the cities in Pakistan, is in desperate need of some major urban planning, especially creating that into a smart city with a huge population and not very well planned city. It's actually welcoming a lot of disasters, and that the implications it has for people there are very, very dangerous. And I completely understand when you highlight the need for creating inclusive cities, which means that the younger youth, but also women, need to be part of the decision making when we talk about inclusion. So before we delve more in that, I would quickly like to bring in Sofia, as this panel is part of Job Fair, and I would like to get her view and Hitachi's view on how they foresee this potential market in Pakistan. What are the areas that Hitachi is tapping when it comes to looking at futuristic technologies, energy, and planning smarter cities? And what skill sets do they look for when hiring young professionals? Naveen, over to you.
Thank you, Seher. So as Seher emphasized, that Pakistan actually has the highest rate of urbanization in South Asia. So what we see is that this increased urbanization actually puts a lot of pressure on your energy systems. And then it creates this dire need to create what we call a sustainable energy future. This joint venture that is between Hitachi and ABB Power Grids has actually emerged during this COVID pandemic. Both the companies are global technology leaders and have a combined experience of almost 250 years in creating a sustainable energy future. In Pakistan, Hitachi ABB Power Grids is serving customers in all verticals, including our key customers such as NTDC, BAPTA, K Electric. We are helping them and providing them intelligent, innovative solutions which can actually help create a sustainable energy future. What we've seen in Pakistan is that this mission to create a sustainable energy future actually entails three very important things. Firstly, for any society to be sustainable and to create a sustainable energy future, you really need a power system that is strong, it's modern, and it's resilient. In Pakistan, we see that our national grid system, the transmission system, is very complex, and that there is a need to adopt modern technologies, the latest state-of-art technologies such as modern SCADA systems, automation substations, and even digital systems. So we are working very closely with our local customers to create grids that are smarter, that are greener, and that are more sustainable. Secondly, one of the key factors in moving towards a sustainable energy future is that we make Pakistan energy independent. Hitachi ABB Power Grids is really working towards that. For example, we are providing the latest HVDC technology to our CASA project. It's a $330 million project that is supported by the World Bank, and it's going to move surplus hydroelectricity from the Central Asia, such as Tajikistan, to Pakistan. So we're really going to help Pakistan become energy independent. Thirdly, and most importantly, it's very important that Pakistan is able to use renewable sources of energy. So locally, Hitachi ABB Power Grids is enabling power in solar projects and wind projects all over Pakistan, particularly in the Sindh region. We are excited and we're proud to say that we're actually at the forefront of helping Pakistan harness renewable sources of energy. So, we are working locally to try and create a sustainable energy future for Pakistan. Now, the second question, Seher, that you also talked about is how can we engage young professionals in this thing? Being in HR, what I have noticed is that individuals, they no longer want to just have a job. They actually want to work for a company that has a good purpose, that has a strong purpose to do good in the world. So that's something that we resonate with. We want to help societies become sustainable. We want to create smart cities. So we really resonate with the new generation. However, in the new generation, we see that in Pakistan, we have highly talented individuals. But what we really look for is individuals who are driven, because we've seen that individuals who are driven, who are motivated, they are more likely to come up with holistic solutions and tackle big problems. So that's really important. In Pakistan, the young generation is super talented, but something that we can really focus on, and I would also request the academia to focus on, is the communication skills, the problem solving skills, the soft skills. Because at the end of the day, when individuals join companies like Hitachi and ABB, we do train them with the product expertise and all the technical knowledge that they would need. But at the end of the day, the communication skills is that what matters? Because at the end of the day, it's all about working with your customers, understanding their needs, and actually delivering high service and utilizing these innovative technologies and actually helping them make use of that. So it's really important that individuals have those communications and problem solving skills, and they're really super driven to actually serve customers and could help create, sustainable society. So that's the most important thing. Yes.
Thanks a lot, Naveen, for highlighting all the important skills that are required. Over these 2 days during the job fair, we've been talking about skills required and also about gender parity. And I was thinking when I was maybe trying to structure this panel, is that why is gender parity important? And actually at IFC, we had this very interesting presentation by our gender team that asked us some questions, and quite a few of us were surprised at answers. So did you know that NASA suits, like space suits, are not gender neutral? They're made for men and can be dangerous for women. Do you know that PPE suits are also not gender neutral? And there's research that also shows that public transit is used more by women and in a different way. Yet when we're planning public transit and all these other things, we're not keeping gender in mind. And that is exactly why we need women right up there making the decisions. And like Sofia, you mentioned, creating cities that are more inclusive. Because if you don't have women, it's not just a feel-good tick mark or a donor requirement to have X number of women on your teams or your panels or your workforce. It's essential because we're a significant percentage of the population, and if we're not planning, keeping our own safety in mind, others will not. So keeping that in mind, I would want to ask all of you to maybe give me 2 as concrete as possible steps that we can take to improve women participation in all these fields. I know this is a difficult question. I've put all of you on spot, but if you can give me 2, I've tried to narrow it down to a number so that it's more specific. And maybe we can start with you, Stefan. I'm sorry.
Oh dear. Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. I'd prefer not to be the first to answer this. I mean, I just can fully agree what you say, and it's for me really great to be here with you and the only man. I do appreciate that as well. I mean, we had just 2 days ago, and Namira spoke there as well. We had a also video conference about women in community energy, and one of the leaders of the persons behind Greta was there, who developed that Fridays for Future movement. And you see that what we're trying to understand at the moment is that women obviously have a different mindset, and they're less. It's less about competition. So what we need, this cultural change for more sustainability, requires less kind of understanding yourself as competing, but collaboration and communicating. I think I'm a man, so it's a bit difficult for me to answer, but I'm trying to get a more abstract understanding of this. And this is how far I've come so far. The climate movement is absolutely dominated by women around the world. And it's so important. I mean, without you women taking the lead on this, we're lost. So I think that is probably the way. Again, it's an abstract answer, but I'm also not in Pakistan, of course. But we have to shift that around and more, as I said, more focus on, and you women, you have the strengths, make use of it. And to the man, I just can say, please understand we have more need to collaborate and communicate and less to compete. I hope that answers a little bit your question in my limited role, what I can contribute to.
Maybe I can just supplement, and maybe
definitely.
I think to help articulate that, I think you're absolutely correct. And I think there are two ways to do that. One is to ensure that women are included in right at the beginning, at the planning stage. So when you're doing an assessment to do a gender analysis, social inclusion analysis for any kind of investment, you really need to make sure that you're getting the right kind of consultations to inform all kinds of program design. On the other hand, what Naveen was saying was also very true. It's the soft skills. How do you build up that leadership skills in women to be able to voice their, as users as well as drivers of change? How are they going to voice that? And I think that we need to focus on really strengthening leadership skills in women. And we've done, at the Asia Foundation, we've been doing a lot of supporting STEM hackathons, focusing particularly on women and ensuring that it's not just the technical skills, but developing those leadership skills is so important. And that comes at, during your education, but also taking on projects outside of your work, in the community, giving to the community. And I think that's where we need to be much more supportive and create space for women to play a leadership role.
Thanks, Sofia. And I will take the same question to you, Victoria, if you can. And you've briefly touched on what IFC is doing, but maybe if you can give one or two concrete steps to increase women participation, not just in IFC, but organizations, private sector around the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. And I could. This is something that's very close to my heart, and I could talk about for hours. So I will try and restrict myself. I'm a lawyer by background, and I was quite heavily involved in a number of years in the whole analysis of women engagement in legal issues and justice. So it's amazing how many countries where even some really basic things, there are limitations on women's ability to enter into the workforce in those sectors, particularly in the construction industry, but across the board. And it's amazing how many countries do have restrictions on what women can and cannot do. So that's something that's sort of aspirational and should certainly be pushed. At the more kind of practical level, I think I alluded to the importance of having consultations, and I think we've highlighted that. Other speakers have highlighted that. What I saw, particularly, I used to be with the World Bank before joining IFC, and was working on a lot of water projects and urban projects, as well as peri-urban projects. And that obviously women in so many of the countries that we work, including in Pakistan, are the primary people who are collecting water, who are responsible for ensuring that there's food on the tables in the families. And yet it's amazing how often there is no consultation or not adequate consultation of women about where, for example, something as simple as where a common standpipe should be placed. And what we've seen is that even if you consult women, but you have them in some cultures, if you actually have consultations where men and women are present together, women do not really have a voice because they don't speak up. And so you just need to make sure that you do tailor it to the specific culture to get the outputs from the consultation that you really need. And then the other one I wanted to flag, which is again another practical thing, is just how important it is to be able to ensure that women get access to finance. And this is partly linked to the previous point on legal issues, but in so many cultures and so many places, again, that we work, it's very difficult for women entrepreneurs to get financing. Maybe it's because they don't have, they don't own land. And again, that can be linked back to inheritance laws and other issues, but also just the wherewithal to be able to open a bank account or any of these things. In most places, it's very difficult. And so we really are pushing at IFC, and I know a number of other organizations as well, to really try and work out how to open up opportunities for female entrepreneurs who are particularly, pushing into these different areas.
Thanks a lot, Victoria, for highlighting all those important points. And I know we're running out of time, so I'd ask Naveen to share her thoughts on the same question.
Yeah, well, I think that women representation, of course, is very crucial. In Hitachi ABB, in my company, I would say that, one key step that we are taking, and we encourage other companies to do the same, is that we are actively recruiting women. Our company actually has this goal to achieve 25% women representation by 2025. So that's really important that you actively recruit women and that they be represented in key positions. Like in my company, HR department is led by a woman. In the finance and legal department, that's actually led by a female. And even in technical positions, it's very important that we make sure that we have female representation. And even at high levels, the management team, at the management level, we need to actively recruit and push women to these positions of power and even to technical positions. Secondly, in our company, for example, we have a really good structured internship program where we actually ensure that there is female representation, and such initial orientation to the company is really important for women because they get an idea, they get acquainted with a multicultural setup and what is actually expected of them. So it's really important to always push women and make sure that they are well represented by actively recruiting and making sure that they are at those very key positions. Yes.
Thank you, Naveen, for highlighting all the important steps Hitachi is taking to increasing women partnership. And like we all discussed, especially when we're talking about urban planning and creating smarter and more inclusive cities, is extremely important, not just to understand the role climate change is playing, but also, like Stefan mentioned, that the climate change campaign is significantly driven by women because they're that impacted minority that in all situations, like women are impacted by all the disasters worse than men are, and they're at the bottom of the poverty chain as well. Hence, it's extremely important that women are part of the designing of urban processes and working at this intersection. Thank you so much for your time, everyone, and I'm glad that we're able to manage this discussion within the scheduled time. And thank you so much for your participation. This is very engaging, and we hope to work together more in the future. And thanks a lot for joining us for the STEM Forward job fair. Thank you, Sofia.
Thank you, everybody.